Morning. This is Thought for the Day for Wednesday, the 8th of July. And if you want to follow along, the passage is Luke chapter 6 and verses 37 to 42. You might want to pause it and then come back with your Bible open to just follow along. I do like that saying that when you point the finger at somebody, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. It's an interesting thing, difficult to prove, but psychologists in the sort of psychodynamic tradition, they talk about projection. And they say that projection in part is that tendency to make a judgmental statement about someone else over an issue or personality trait that we're unwilling to address in ourselves. Worth bearing in mind next time we want to be critical of somebody. Are we criticising something that is an issue we struggle with ourselves? Imagine if there was no element of judging people on social media. Imagine if they banned negative talk or judging other people on Facebook or WhatsApp. Can you hear that? Yep, that's the sound of Facebook Inc.'s shares crashing through the floor. Bit too cynical maybe, but what instead if we took the words of St. Paul seriously, so that when we addressed anybody we chose words for their ability to strengthen and encourage and comfort. 1 Corinthians 14:3. Jesus is commending in this bit of teaching a generous attitude, a generous spirit towards other people. And as you read on, it seems that it has benefits for us. Now, I'm not entirely sure what Jesus meant exactly when he spoke about the words in verse 38, but let's read them again. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. But one thing I have noticed is that when people are generous with their words, when they're encouraging and kind in the words that they speak to other people, it seems to have an impact on their family, their place of work, or their community. I sometimes talk about, be a thermostat and not a thermometer. A thermometer just measures the temperature around you. A thermostat kind of person actually raises the temperature or sets the temperature by the things that they do. Research shows that being kind to people, speaking kindly to people, can make us feel happier. Deciding to be generous activates a part of the brain that corresponds with the things that we find rewarding. It's the reason for the warm glow we get from helping somebody. And being kind and being encouraging rather than judgmental is also an opportunity to strengthen a friendship or to make a social connection. And both those things are linked to improved mood. Being encouraging rather than judgmental blesses the other person, but lo and behold, it has a positive impact on our mental, emotional and spiritual well-being. Who'd have guessed? Oh, Jesus did 2,000 years ago before research confirmed it. And it's similar to forgiveness. Now, don't get me wrong, when people hurt us in life-changingly bad ways, it is serious. The impact can last a lifetime. Believe you me, I know only too well from my work as a probation officer and as a prison chaplain. It's right that some people, the things they do that hurt us are so bad that they need to go to prison or whatever, or the full weight of the law needs to come against them. There's a need for justice. But Jesus encourages us to go through the process of forgiveness, even for the most heinous things that may have been done to us. Why? Because if we don't, it only hurts us. I don't want to be trite about this, but mulling over the incident, the event that so hurt us, only hurts us over and over again. Strangely, it seems to strengthen in the worst possible way the unhealthy bond that we have with the one who wronged us. Forgiveness is about letting go. If we don't, it's like holding a piece of broken glass in our hand and squeezing it tighter and tighter and hoping it will hurt the other person. And so lo and behold, even forgiveness benefits the one offering it. It's not easy. Some wounds go very deep, and it is good to ask perhaps somebody to pray with you, pray for you, to be able to talk about what it was that hurt you, and maybe even to seek some advice. I wouldn't talk to lots of people about the thing that hurt you, but definitely having a confidant that you can talk to is really important. We keep saying, don't we, in these thoughts for the day in one way or another, that following the way of Jesus is not only true, i.e. it corresponds with reality, the way life actually is, the way our Maker created it to be, but it also works. It is life-giving. I'm a Christian, follower of Jesus, not because I've been brainwashed into it, not because my parents were, they weren't, not because I was sent to church. I am a follower of Jesus because over 40 years I've found it's not only true, but it works. And I've never seen or heard of anything else that can even hold a candle to following Jesus as a way of doing life. It's why one of my favourite titles for Jesus is Rabbi, teacher, mentor. And I've sought to try and make that the case for me over the last sort of 40 years or so. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. And it's a way of life that is not just good for us, but actually transforms us in a way that makes it good for everybody around us. And Jesus says when we start getting this right, just to read a little bit further on in the passage, he says that when we start getting this right, we can be of help to others. Until we do start working on our own stuff, he says it's like the sight challenged leading the visually impaired. At the end of this bit of teaching, Jesus paints a wonderfully silly and surreal picture that wouldn't look out of place in a Monty Python sketch. And he says that unless we are doing something about our own judgmental attitudes, unless we are working on our own forgiveness, we have nothing to offer anyone else. In fact, if we do that without working on our own stuff, it will make things worse. And he says it's like someone with a piece of 2x4 wood sticking out of their eye, trying to help somebody with the tiniest bit of sawdust in their eye. One of my favourite music artists for about the last 30 years has been a fellow called Michael Franti. Hugely influenced, a man who's been hugely influenced by not only his black heritage, but his Christian heritage as well. He wouldn't call himself a Christian, but it's so obvious when you hear his story that has been a very powerful impact on his life. I've just started watching his film Stay Human, which is a lot of fun. I believe he says this, I believe there is no one you wouldn't love if you knew their story. When I learn about someone else's experience, I'm always inspired to hear they share the same fears and hopes that I do. And in this ever-changing world, I look for the optimism of people who can find opportunity in the face of everyday challenges. That's a really good thing to bear in mind when we feel like being critical and judgmental of somebody else. What's their story? What's their story? If we heard it, it may just completely transform our attitude towards them. And when we see people like that, when we take time to hear their story, it often makes it harder to be judgmental and unforgiving. And as St. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5:11, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing.